Hare Krishna. So this is Śāstra-cakṣusā. I'm here with Sankirtan Prabhu and
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming again. We should make this a weekly thing because it's so enlivening to talk about Prabhupada and like how he was at your house, and we were just talking about that. The picture on the event. Uh, the leadership, the qualities of leadership, and that was taken in front of Sankirtan's house in his garden, and they just had a beautiful description of it. Hari Sari, the Australian devotee, was talking about how the sunlight was coming through the trees, and it was just
Krishna.
hitting golden uh, cloth on the Vyasasan, and it would just enhance the beauty of Srila Prabhupada. It was sitting there on the Vyasasan, and the ambiance was very nice because, the birds were chirping, and it was a nice, warm summer evening. And so, that's the thing with these books. You can really kind of be transported into the past to understand what Prabhupada was actually thinking and feeling and everything about the whole situation there, because where you are living right now is a holy place, Prabhu.
Yes, I know, and it's a grave responsibility.
Yeah, you got to
And
keep that place up,
I like to bring guests to the front lawn and tell them about some of the things that Prabhupada did and what he said, and especially the day because Prabhupada gave sessions right here on the front lawn of the house, about 7 or 8 sessions. And out of those sessions, two of those sessions were all about the study of the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, about the divine and demoniac natures.
I was just reading
And,
about that in Transcendental Diary. He was going through
uh,
all those points, and he would go from point to point, and then he would have an enlivening discussion with all the devotees. I was right in the middle of reading that, but somehow or other, to err is human, but it takes a computer to really screw things up. It's like a 5 hour chapter, the whole one about New Vrindaban. It's five
yes.
hours long. It probably around there. I don't know if it's plus or minus maybe half an hour, but it's the when I get an error message that the host Vanapedia is down, and so it's not connecting with the Cloudflare, which is the
Hmm.
transmission site for the information. So, I'm just going to have to wait. I'm going to have to try later, but because I wanted to actually um, finish that today, but I wasn't able to, so I read a couple of other things. There's always stuff to read. That's the nice thing about Krishna consciousness. When I ran out of Prabhupada's books to read, I was in anxiety because I didn't have anything else to read. And I thought, oh, wait. Oh, yeah, there's the Mahabharata, there's the Ramayana, and all
Hmm.
those books that you've translated and published, which is available on your website, Mahabharat uh,
Mahabharata.
dot, dot com,
There's this
right?
gathering. We would, we're talking about the whole topic of this. Vedic Observer is all about leadership, the qualities of a real leader, of a good leader.
Right.
And these principles are scattered not only in the Bhagavatam, but in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana. So we have to kind of siphon through these different teachings, through these different books, to get at the standard of what is a good leader and what are the basic principles of Dharma. So one of the things that devotees can do in this time of confusion, because there's such great confusion going on, and the atmosphere is being disrupted by the present administration. And so what devotees need to do to counteract this, there's several things. One, of course, is the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. This is very important because Prabhupada says that all of the anomalies in the world, in our society, can be corrected by the Sankirtan Yagna through
Yeah.
the Sank. So that's one thing. We also have to educate people as to what is Dharma and what is Adharma. And also, we have to educate people, like here in the 16th chapter that Prabhupada talks about. He gave two sessions. He devoted 2 evenings to the 16th chapter, the divine and the demoniac natures.
This is in
So
1976, correct?
yes, in 76. And so we need to educate people about not only Dharma and Adharma, but about what is the divine, what are the qualities of a divine personality and what are the qualities of a demoniac personality. So that's delineated in the 16th chapter. And the last thing I would suggest for devotees to do to propagate this teaching is to focus on educating the public also in the modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So people can begin to distinguish somebody acting or talking in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, and in the mode of ignorance. So people need that those teachings under their belt to be able to distinguish what's going on in the material world and who's functioning on what level.
Yeah, Emerson used to say, he said you have to understand the difference between the angels and the de devils. And but what this whole idea of dharma and adharma, does that have anything, does that kind of related to the old principle of cultivating nescience and transcendence at the same time?
Yes, that's in the Sri Upanishad, right?
Yeah,
They refer to vidya and avidya, what is
right.
knowledge and what is anti-knowledge
Right.
against
What is
the.
knowledge and what is ignorance? Krishna also discusses that. He says, surrendering to a spiritual master, doing this and that and the other thing. This is all knowledge. Everything else is just ignorance. He talks
Mhm.
about that in the Bhagavad Gita. I know that.
But
But
in this session, it's the title is what the qualities of a leader.
mhm.
I forget what we termed this session would be about, but it's one of the things in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, the ninth chapter. This is the ninth chapter is all about a summation of the teachings of Grandfather Bhishma Dev, giving in the last moments of his life, he's giving the teachings of leadership to Yudhisthira, who's just become he's become enthroned as the emperor of the world. So grandfather, but before he even gets to leadership, this is an interesting thing that and this is explained by Prabhupada in the text 26 in the purport. Uh, Bhishma Dev advised all human beings. There's 9 qualifications just to be on the human level, let alone on the leadership level. These 9 qualifications that Grandfather Bhishma Dev describes: one, not to be angry. A human being shouldn't unnecessarily get angry. Also, not to lie, to be truthful. Also, to equally distribute wealth. That's interesting. And also to forgive, to be able to forgive the transgressors of others. And 5 is to beget children only by one's legitimate wife. And 6 is to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7 is not to be inimical toward anyone. Don't be cruel or hateful or inimical toward anyone. And the 8 is very simple, to be simple. That's
Ah,
number 8. Just be a simple human being.
right.
And number 9 is to support one's servants and subordinates.
Mm.
And then it's also explained by Prabhupada later on that Bhishma Dev also touched upon the Varnashram system, the social divisions, not by birthright, but by qualification. And he also talks about acts of charity, the activities of a king, the responsibilities of the Brahmins, and how they advise the king. And finally, Prabhupada also said, most importantly, Bhishma Dev discussed the process of serving and pleasing the Supreme Lord. So that's quite a bundle. All
Yeah,
of
is that delineated in that first chapter or that ninth chapter?
these are all, yes, a lot of these points that Prabhupada is making is in the purports. So
Okay.
that ninth chapter is just a brief summary study of the original teachings of Grandfather Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows after the Battle of Kurukshetra.
I mean, he was, I get like, I can't do anything if I have like a hangnail. But
Right.
he's like, he's like doing all this when he was shot through his body, through and through. In fact, he was like elevated off the ground, and
Mhm.
he was thirsty, and so Arjuna shot an arrow and gave him a drink by plunging the arrow into the earth and striking water. And I can't imagine giving a whole discourse. I mean, this must have taken a long time for him to talk about all these different points. But he was so tolerant, and I mean, he had the benediction to leave his body at any point. But he
Yes,
was
this
waiting until the sun was going to the north, correct?
yes, he was lying on the bed of arrows for a number of weeks before the Pandavas actually returned to Kurukshetra to get his guidance. And
Wow.
so Yudhisthira, even though he became the emperor of the world, he was very much distraught. He was grief-stricken because so many warriors died at the Battle of Kurukshetra for his benefit. And so he had a great burden on his shoulders of responsibility and how to be the king properly, how to administer properly. And he came back to get that guidance from Grandfather Bhishma Dev.
How did Bhishma relieve him of his guilt?
Well, it was a lengthy, lengthy discussion. And that's all, I have there's the Ganguly edition, which is available nowadays online in 4 books. You could buy the entire Ganguly Mahabharat, the English translation. Years ago, it came out in a series of 12 books, Ganguly's entire translation of Mahabharat. And out of 12 books that consisted of Mahabharat, 3 of those books were dedicated to Grandfather Bhishma Dev's instructions. Out of 12 books, that's like 1/4 of the entire Mahabharat was dedicated to Grandfather Bhishma Dev's instructions.
Yeah, I mean, all these politicians, they go for 48 hours in Congress and they think they're such great souls. Of course, they can't go to the bathroom or anything, but like if you're shot full of arrows and you've waited already 3 weeks, and then you start giving instructions that on Dharma, I mean, no wonder Bhishma Dev is considered one of our leading authorities, right, in Krishna
Yes,
consciousness, the Mahajans.
one of the 12 Mahajans, exactly. And so, but another Mahajan is Narada Muni, and early on in the Mahabharata, when the Pandavas begin their own kingdom at Indraprastha, this is a city that is built by the Pandavas with the help of the demigods. And it's such a glorious system that people from all over the world travel there to reside there and to contribute to the social order of the kingdom at Indraprastha. But Narada Muni comes there early on, and he's also there to give Yudhisthira, Narada Muni is a spiritual advisor, but he's giving Yudhisthira very practical hands-on advice on how to rule the kingdom. And the very first thing he says to Narada Muni says to Yudhisthira, he says one of the main responsibilities of the king is to make sure the citizens are happy. And they're happy in two ways. One is that the citizens need justice, a system of justice for everyone. And the other way to be happy is also for economic prosperity. People need to become, have the ability to become economically prosperous, and they need to have proper justice. But Narada Muni warns Yudhisthira. He says, don't let wealth and power distort justice, and don't let justice define uh, uh, don't let justice aid you in getting wealth and power. So you see, there's
What does that mean? Justice aiding you in getting wealth and power. How would that work?
well, basically it's a corruption of justice.
Oh, I see.
You know, justice is supposed to be very sublime. So if you use justice, if you corrupt justice to gain more wealth and power, one shouldn't do that. Narada Muni tells him, don't let anyone near the throne who is consumed with obtaining wealth and power.
That's what Swayambhuva Manu was taught by Kardama Muni as well. He said if the miscreants, if people who are just after money attack, they will destroy the world. That's actually what's happening right now, actually. I think it is as far as like the 16th chapter and the qualities of demonic and the modes of nature and everything and how we have to discriminate. We have to apply that we don't want to call anybody any names, or we don't want to make it a personal thing, but we have to recognize what's happening in the world and act accordingly because right now, there's going to be, I was just reading the numbers from today, the economic numbers
Hmm.
that are very, very bad. And actually, they've been kind of toasting the numbers too, cooking the books, they call it, because they want to make it look better than it actually is. The jobs report was horrible this morning.
Hmm.
And so there's going to be another recession pretty soon. That's what the former Robert Reich, you ever heard of him? He's like, I call him the half economist because he's very short. But he was in the Clinton administration in his cabinet. But he said that this is coming pretty soon. And 9 out of 10 of the last recessions have been started under a Republican administration. And during the Democratic, during the Great Society and the New Deal, the FDR after the crash of 1929,
Hmm.
he rebuilt the whole thing through Keynesian economics, the demand side economics. And that's what we have to do actually to prevent them, because what they do is like, have you ever heard the saying that when there is blood in the streets, that's when you can really become rich?
Hmm.
There's a
Well,
saying like,
the governance is based on fear.
yeah, but also the
Governance shouldn't
economic
be based on
royalists
fear.
or the people that actually make money by transferring the wealth from the middle class and the middle class, from the ordinary people, and then they pocket all that money. So off of our recession or depression, they make off like bandits.
Right. But the real nature of a leader is that if there's a problem in our society, like if there's some economic problem and issues, rather than ripping away resources from the poor or the middle class,
You have to share it. That's what Bhishma
yes,
Dev said, right?
the leaders have to make the biggest sacrifice. They shouldn't say, "Oh, the poor and the middle class have to make the." No, the leaders and the congressmen and women, why don't they say, "Let's begin the sacrifice back to normality, and we'll take less money." The leaders have to take less money, and the leaders, they have to make the biggest sacrifice. We have the story of Ranti Dev, and
Oh yeah,
Ranti, there was a famine in his kingdom, and soon after the famine struck, he had huge warehouses stored with all sorts of grains and edibles, and he opened those storehouses to the citizens in his kingdom. And
right.
he himself fasted for 40 days. And so
Yeah.
where are those
Was there
leaders
a
that
test,
are
a test
making the
of
biggest sacrifices? Excuse me?
there was a test. Didn't three different personalities come and test him to see if he was going to eat with his family? But then he gave all his food away before he even had a chance. And
Right.
also, Prabhupada was talking about how a leader should also not only distribute the wealth for his own wealth, but he should also be the first one into battle. Like what
Uh,
President Washington went into battle in the first war, uh, he's the one that led the charge. But everybody nowadays, they just hide in their desks and make commands for the army to do this or that. They're not leading the battle. So that's the difference between Vedic civilization and modern civilization. Pretty much, you know, people, Kshatriyas, a president is a Kshatriya, a king is a Kshatriya, right? Mostly.
right, exactly. They have Kshatriya qualities. And
So they're brave and they don't hide and then give the responsibility or the wealth to other, uh, to themselves. They take the responsibility instead of delegating the responsibility. They lead the battle and they share their own wealth. And that's what you're supposed to do in Vedic civilization. Just like if you're a householder, you're supposed to go outside of your door and say, "Is there any hungry man? Is there any hungry man?" And you have to say it 3 times. And that is kind of like the Beatitudes, where Christ said, "As you did unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me." So you have to take care of the poor, and you can't, share the wealth. As that was one of the points where you said, I thought that was interesting, what Bhishma Dev said. That one of the what? How many points are there? 10 points of
that
the.
I read 9 different points, and like one of them is to equally distribute wealth. That's one of the
So he was
points.
kind of like a communist then.
Excuse me?
Except he understood that actually everything belongs to God, not the state. The state, they have the same, the communist system is that the state owns everything and then it's shared, each according to its necessity and each according to his need or ability. And so, but the thing is, Prabhupada was even more left-wing than that. He said the state doesn't even own anything. Actually, Krishna owns everything. And so, therefore, if you have that common understanding that we are all meant as part of the Varnashram system to cooperate for the common good of everyone, then there's no envy between the classes. And they can, it's not like, the workers are rebelling against the bourgeois or whatever. And there's even in Russia, where they have the communist system, there's only a few billionaires and everybody else is poor, the sweepers of the street. And
One one thing you mentioned earlier that the quality of a leader has to be even within the military capabilities. And Prabhupada actually mentions this in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in one of the purports. So I encourage everyone to read that 16th chapter. This is what Prabhupada says. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and labor men, the whole machinery of the government becomes polluted. So this is a very important point that Prabhupada is saying that you can't, the mercantile community, even though the best, the most successful business people shouldn't be elevated to the position of administration in the government. Nowadays, the whole mentality of the people is a thinking, oh, this guy is very successful in business. Let him come and control the government. But Prabhupada is saying the total opposite, that a mercantile person should stick to his category and not become a Kshatriya who is ruling the kingdom for the common good. Because, you know, the mercantile class works for profit. It doesn't work for the common good.
Right, right. They're all selfish. Prabhupada was mentioning that in New Vrindaban. He was saying that if you want to build a building, you want to hire an architect. You don't want like a street sweeper. That won't work. So you want to have each individual cog in the wheel that makes society run. You have to be qualified as far as like the Varnashram institution. Everybody has a natural inclination to be either Brahminical or a warrior class or making money, the Vaishya class, as you said, or Shudra. But everyone is born a Shudra in this age.
Yes, unfortunately, in this age.
You
And
know, it's like
therefore,
and like third class or fourth class men are picking 10th class men for leadership instead of and it should be the other way around. You should have a first class men, you know, the best of the best. But now what we have in this current administration is a kakistocracy. Ever heard of that word?
no.
Kakistocracy is government by the worst, absolute
Oh,
worst
okay.
possible. But you know, every single pick in the cabinet, they're all first of all, they're billionaires, so they're very greedy, um, and they're actually like, for example, the EPA administration, that was that was started by Nixon back in the 70s, and
Hmm.
Nixon would be a communist in this day and age because he started the EPA and they picked a person that wanted to destroy the EPA to be the head of the EPA now. And so he's getting rid of all of the 2009 regulation that says that you have to, you know, it's actually a harm to society if there's too much pollution. And so they're getting rid of that rule so that now the petroleum industry can pollute as much as they want. They don't have to have any standards of safety or of pollution standards. So they can just deregulate everything. And
No, yeah, the leaders have to protect the citizens of society, and that means not only the human beings, but the animals are also citizens, and the trees are also citizens. So we have to figure out a way to protect everyone that needs to be protected because there's a subtle balance between everyone and every living organism in the kingdom.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, I remember reading it's like that Native American saying Omikayasan, something like that. Um,
Huh.
Omikate Kuyasan, all my relations. But Emerson said the same thing. There was a 17th century poet. His name was George Herbert. And he said, everything in the nature is symbiotic. So if one thing is harmed, like say for example bees, they get too much poison because of the pesticides, and you get rid of the bees, the whole food system will collapse. And
Mhm.
so everything it works uh, together, and everything is related in nature. And George Herbert said um, he was a 17th century psalmist. And Emerson quoted him as saying, um, herbs find um, cure our flesh. Herbs cure our flesh
Mhm.
because they find their acquaintance there. In other words, everything works together for the good of, everything in nature works together for the good of everything else. It's symbiotic. So if that way,
Mhm.
there has to be balance between the different and the thing is, if you destroy nature in one area, then the entire planet will suffer, getting rid of all this, I heard one Christian lady was saying, God is the one that's in control. So this whole green energy deal, that is actually against God,
Uh-huh.
but that is just moronic because if you make your bed a mess,
Mhm.
you can't blame your parents, for doing that. Your parents are supposed to clean it up. No, you have to clean it up. And
Well,
you,
that type of mentality comes because people think they have has given them dominion over the earth.
right, but that's
Oh,
not really the correct
oh, God has
philosophical
given us
conclusion.
responsibility to protect, not to get dominion and to use the earth in whatever perverted way we want to use the earth.
Yeah, I mean,
To
dominion
protect the
doesn't mean
earth.
that you kill the animals and eat them, or you are some kind of king. Yeah, I don't know what the Greek or the Aramaic word for dominion is, but I don't think it's interpreted very well in the Bible scriptures because
Yes,
dominion, what they mean is protection. Just
I
like
think so.
children and women need protected, they need to be protected and not exploited. So the whole idea is that everything on this planet is meant for Krishna service, not for our own
Mhm.
sense gratification. And if you exploit the resources of material nature for your own sense gratification, that's going to create an imbalance in nature. And then the whole world will be depleted of all of its resources, and you're going to have to go to Mars, which is what
Prabhupada said that's another illusion. That's another
Yeah, and of course,
propaganda.
it's like what
He
I
said that.
would pay for Elon Musk to go to Mars. I would actually try to chip in for that because he thinks it's such a great thing to start another colony on Mars, so that when this planet dies, then they can start over again. But Prabhupada used to say that this whole space endeavor is just a huge waste of time and money.
Yes, it's being that rich are exploiting people and getting their money. Actually, it's a way to cheat people out of their money because just some of that money is going to the exploration. Most of that money that's coming in and these subsidies from the government are going into people's pockets.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it's a
I mean, it's
form of
just
cheating.
like for Elon Musk, he wanted somebody to volunteer to go to Mars, but it's a one-way ticket. He
Mhm.
was saying, yeah, but it will be glorious. Yeah, for his ego.
Let me share a story if I may. And
Yeah,
this is a story basically about Dronacharya, who's one of the teachers in the Kuru dynasty, he understands that either Yudhisthira or Duryodhan are going to take the forefront.
Right.
And he wants to understand the nature of these two personalities. So
Mhm.
he sends Duryodhan out into the streets of Indraprastha, and he asks him, bring me back someone who you think is greater than you.
Oh,
And
Duryodhana set that test.
excuse me,
Dronacharya set that test, right?
to Duryodhan.
Or
Find
Duryodhana
somebody.
and Yudhishthira, right?
No, he told Yudhisthira also to go out to the streets of Hastinapura and bring me somebody back lower than you are.
Yeah, and
And
none of
they
them
each
could
have
find
their own
out
assignments.
either
So
because
Yudhisthira, Dronacharya is going around and he's saying, "Oh, look, well, they're the Brahmins. Actually, I'm greater because I protect the humble Brahmins." And he goes around, and whoever he meets, he assumes that I'm greater than these people. I'm greater than the merchants. I'm protecting the merchants. And
yeah,
even a group of aristocracy comes wandering by, and they're all bowing before Duryodhan. And
mhm.
so he's thinking, I can't find anybody greater than me.
It
I'm the
was
greatest.
yeah, yeah.
And he goes back to Dronacharya. In the
Mhm.
meantime, Yudhisthira is also going around the streets, and he's saying, "Ah, they are the Brahmins. Oh, how great they are that they are providing, the Brahmins are providing spiritual knowledge for myself and for the rest of society."
Yeah,
And
they're
then
supposed
he
to lead
goes,
the Kshatriyas, the Brahmanas.
yes. And then he also goes to the marketplace, and he's saying, "Oh, these people, they are supplying all of the resources that we need in our society. They're
Mhm.
invaluable, these people."
Right.
And Eustace is going around, and he's really honoring everyone and respecting anyone. All of a sudden, Eustace comes upon some guy drawing water from the well, and that day happened to be a fast day.
It was a
And so
Codicy.
a real Vedic personalities would never, on a fast day, they wouldn't even touch water. They would certainly not eat any food, but even water, they would not even drink water. And
Mhm.
so Eustace is thinking, ah, I found somebody lower than myself. Here is a person drawing water from the well. And then he sees that he gets the water in the bucket, but he brings it to his thirsty horse. He doesn't take any water. And so Eustace is thinking, just see, I'm ready to criticize this person for something that he had no intention of doing. I'm the most foolish. I'm the lowest for thinking like this. And
Right.
so he comes back. So Yudhisthira, he sees, Dronacharya sees that Yudhisthira is ready as the king to offer respects to all of the citizens. And
Yeah.
this is one of the qualities of a leader, that they are giving respect to everyone, even also to people they don't agree with. They're giving respect to their subordinates, and their only their service. They consider their service. I'm here to protect the rest of society, not
Right.
to lord it over the rest of society. That's not the position of a real king.
Yeah, the Yudhishthir considered himself lower than anyone. And it's just like if you think that you are the doer or you think that you're just like I think Varshana Maharaj said that if you think that you alone are the person that can do everything and you don't need anybody's help, that is a very dangerous type of leader. And because, but actually, it's actually the opposite now. I mean, that is one of the qualities where my name is Shikshasika, and the third verse is you after give all respect to others while not uh, expecting any honor or praise for yourself. That is the third verse, and Krishna's Kaviraj says that you should wear that around your neck. And I have a medallion that I used to actually literally wear it around my neck. But the thing is, I lost it. But the thing is, you should at least try to remember that. But nowadays, it seems like the leadership. I remember one time Leslie Stahl in 60 Minutes, which has been canceled and sued right now for no reason at all because they misinterpreted or they just gave him money, because he wanted some money. They sued 60 Minutes, the CBS. And Leslie Stahl said, this is the old lady from one of the interviewers from 60 Minutes. He was interviewing Pence and Trump, and she said, you're not known to be a very humble man. And Trump said, actually, I think I am humble. I am more humble than you could possibly comprehend. So he was bragging about how humble he was, which is kind of like in other words, he doesn't even know what humility is. And so people don't even have they don't even have any conception about that verse, what to speak of putting it into their lives. And, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had the same idea, like I am just a dog in front of my house, and I am guarding, I'm Krishna's servant, all my family members, this little miniature kingdom that I have, they're just Krishna's servants as well, and I'm just protecting the house like a dog in front of the door.
The,
So,
re the real humility of a leader, and this is also explained in the Mahabharata, that if something is stolen, there's a story in the Mahabharata, and this is in the kingdom of Yudhisthira in Indraprastha. Arjuna is walking through the marketplace, and someone comes rushing down the street and tells Arjuna he's one of the leaders. The Pandavas are ruling Indraprastha. And so he tells Arjuna that my cows were stolen in the middle of the night. They're all gone. Somebody has to retrieve them. And here you are, you're walking casually through the marketplace, and you have no thought of rectifying this criminal act. And Arjuna says, don't worry, I'm going to rectify this. And he says, because all of the citizens know this as a fact, he says, if I can't retrieve your stolen property, I'll personally replace it. So that's the humility of a leader, that if he can't retrieve the stolen property of a citizen, he will personally replace that property. Where are those leaders with those type of qualities? No one's willing
when
to
that
do that.
Brahmana lost his child, and then Arjuna said,
Yes,
I'm
that's
going to
another
get back
story.
that child. And if I don't bring that child back, I will kill myself. I will
Yes,
burn
he'll
into
enter
fire.
fire, he said.
Yeah. So he was about ready to do that, but Krishna stopped him because he knew that it was Vishnu's trick in order to get both of them to come to Vaikuntha so he could see Krishna and Arjuna. But so Arjuna couldn't rectify that situation because that was just a pretext
Well,
um, by
uh,
Vishnu in order to see Krishna himself. Vishnu wanted to see Krishna.
but this is the grave responsibility of leadership. And
Yeah.
all of these qualities of a leadership are strewn throughout the Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. They're all there, and it's not a matter of assuming power and authority, but assuming the responsibility to protect everyone in the kingdom. And even with that story with Ranti Dev, he, after 40 days, his ministers brought him a plate of food. They said, "You have to maintain your health. You need to eat something." And one by one, people passed his court, and they were looking for something to eat, and he gave that food away. And even one of the people that passed his door was a stranger from the kingdom with two dogs that had just arrived, and he was even responsible for fulfilling his request that I need some food. I've been traveling to the kingdom here for a number of days, and I'm hungry, and my dogs are hungry. So this is the grave responsibility of a leader. A
Yeah.
leader should, and Prabhupada talks about this. Let me just read this to you. In modern days, the people in general occupy the administration by the strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in the primary duties of the king. And that is also not possible for everyone. See, not everyone can follow these strict rules of what a leader needs to do. Not everyone is qualified or eligible. Prabhupada says, under the present circumstances, the untrained administrators play havoc to make the subject happy in all respects. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top-heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. And so all of this money is going to the biggest so-called leaders who have no qualification to be leaders.
The last 40, 50 years, ever since this the Reagan Revolution, there's been a transfer of wealth from the middle class and the lower class up to the top people. And they say that it's $50 trillion with a T. So that's
Mm.
why, the middle class is shrinking. They had after the 1929 crash, they put everybody to work, and they had unions and things like that. But after Reagan took office, they destroyed all the unions and had tax cuts for the rich. And so there was a huge transfer of wealth from the poor uh, up to the rich. And so that is
Yes.
what it's meant by oligarchy. When you
This is
have,
called trickle-down economics.
yeah, but even
Rich
even
have the
George
power and the
H.W.
wealth, and it's supposed to trickle down to the rest of us,
Yeah,
but it
but
never
even
does.
George H.W. Bush called that voodoo economics
Mhm.
because it doesn't really work. It never has worked. It's if somebody says you're going to trickle down, you should probably get an umbrella
Mhm.
because it's not going to trickle down. Usually, what happens is if the rich people that are investors and stuff, if they get money, they just increase their own wealth by cashing in their stocks and rewarding their investors. You know, they just they put all the money back into their own company instead of giving it to the workers, and that way the workers remain poor, and the people that are the billionaires, the morbidly rich, they just get richer and richer and richer, and that's why I think it's very interesting that Bhishma Dev would say that you have to share the wealth. It's just like a leader. It seems to me, Prabhupada also said that it's like a parent. Parent will take care of the children. The citizens are kind of like children, and the parent should, the king should treat their citizens exactly like his own children and be responsible. And you know, they would sacrifice their own prosperity or even their lives to benefit the citizens. Like, yeah, I think in material relationships, the mother is known as the most pure because the mother will do anything to protect her child. That's almost selfless service. It's still material, but the true selflessness is Krishna consciousness because you haven't even
Mhm.
no thought of your own maintenance. That's why Prabhupada said in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he said, because I'm not polluting the message of the Bhagavad Gita, and that um, we are meant to serve Krishna's senses, not our own senses. And because I'm doing that in this presentation of the Bhagavad Gita, therefore this Bhagavad Gita is very successful because I'm presenting it as it is, that Krishna's senses are the first ones to be satisfied, and we should never do any kind of religious or justice or any kind of thing for our own sense gratification, and we shouldn't try to get any respect or prestige or one money or power for ourselves. We should actually just try to, um, you know, because Krishna is equal to all, we have to see everyone in the kingdom as Krishna's servants, right?
But you've made a really good point in your discussion here because, and this goes back to Kunti and her sons when they were living in hiding because their lives were threatened. They were almost assassinated. And so Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, was in hiding, but still, even though she was in a foreign place, she wasn't the queen of that country where they were hiding. Still, she felt the responsibility of leadership and wanted to help somebody there. They were hiding in the house of a Brahmin and his family in Ekachakra. And so the family was talking. They were in great anxiety because there was a Rakshasa who threatened the community, and he wanted a sacrifice. Every week or so, he wanted a family to sacrifice one individual of the family, and the families had to take turns every year or two. And so the uh, the idea was that every family eventually had to offer one sacrifice from their family, and with a cartload of food. And so now it was the turn of this Brahmin family, and they were discussing in the next room, who are we going to send to make this sacrifice to this demon who lives nearby, this Rakshasa?
Man
And they
eater.
were
I
all very
can't help.
distraught. And so Kunti overheard the conversation, and she immediately wanted to alleviate the problem. That's the nature of a Kshatriya, a nature of the ruling class. Even though she wasn't a ruler in that kingdom, she wanted immediately to extend the help of her and her family. And she told them, don't worry about a thing. My son, Bhima, he'll take that cartload of food. None of you have to worry about being sacrificed to that Rakshasa. My son, Bhima, he'll deliver that cartload of food and he'll take care of that demoniac personality. And so this is the nature of a Kshatriya, a warrior, a leader, that they're willing to take leadership even at their own expense.
Right. And Bhima, what I like about that pastime is that Bhima was very, very condescending towards that demon. He started eating the food on the way.
Right.
And he was just like mocking him, come and get me, And then he would eat all the food and practically it was all gone because he was what's the name in Sanskrit for a voracious eater?
Um,
Vrikadar.
okay.
I think it's Virkadar. But anyway,
Yeah.
he ate half of
be.
the food before he even got to the Rakshasa, and he was supposed to, but then he killed the
And the
Rakshasa.
Rakshasa was totally overwhelmed with anger,
Yeah,
seeing
I mean, he was pretty angry, and but the thing is, one of the qualities I think Kunti, even though she was born in a Kshatriya family, though, right? I mean, she had Kshatriya qualities,
Mhm.
right? Because she wanted to alleviate the suffering of the Brahmanas. So another
Kunti, I
one
think,
was like,
was the sister of Krishna's father.
right? They were related, blood
Yes.
relation. That's
And
why they said
so,
that's not a Pritu.
excuse me?
Pritu's Maharaj Prithu was related, right?
I'm not sure about the dynamics of that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But like Krishna would refer to Arjuna as a blood relation to him, and so he
Mhm.
didn't want Arjuna to be uh, defamed by doing something like not fighting. And that's why like a kshatriya or a leader will actually take up the fight themselves. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, she was very upset that his stepmother said, "You'll never be on the lap of my father or his father." And
Mhm.
so he got mad and he said, "Well, how can I rectify the situation?" And he wouldn't even listen to Narada Muni. He just walked right past it. Get out of my way, I'm going to find God in the forest. And so, he was very determined, and Krishna knew that, so he sent Narada Muni. And so Narada Muni taught him that mantra, and he saw God. And then as soon as he saw God, though, he was completely satisfied, and he didn't want
Uh-huh.
anything else, But that's a Kshatriya mentality, just that I'm willing to sacrifice myself and my wealth or my very life for others. And just that's I think, Christianity is like that too. I mean, Christ was supposedly so great because he sacrificed his own life for the sake of everyone, all of his followers.
Mhm.
So that's a great quality, and he's remembered like that in Christianity. So what do you think? I just had one more question before we take off here.
Yes.
It's pretty much time to wrap this up, but. You said that about the humility. Um, what do you think it means to be humbler than a blade of grass? That is almost inconceivable to me. How you can be.
Well, that's the nature of, a Brahminical quality, uh, because each order in society, they have different qualities. Prabhupada says that the Kshatriya, their fine qualities means a Kshatriya has to go out and fight and meet the challenge of the day. But a Brahmin has to be humble. He doesn't see anyone as his enemy. No one should see a Brahmin as their enemy. So there are different qualities. But in closing up, I'd like to just read something that Prabhupada wrote. This is all, again from the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter of divine and demoniac.
Okay.
And Prabhupada says, the demoniac are engaged in activities that will lead the world to destruction. The Lord states here that they are less intelligent. The materialists have no conception of God, think that they are advancing. But according to Bhagavad Gita, they are unintelligent and devoid of all sense. They try to enjoy the material world to the utmost limit and therefore always engage in inventing something for their sense gratification. Such materialistic inventions are considered to be the advancement of humans' civilization. But the result is that people grow more and more violent and more cruel.
Right.
Cruel to animals and cruel to other human beings. They have no idea how to behave toward one another. So,
Right.
you know, that's what's happening in our culture right now. People, they become, they take the example of the leader. This is explained by Krishna in the third chapter, that however a leader behaves, then the rest of the population is going to take his or her example.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is that people are becoming very selfish and very cruel, and they're only thinking about themselves and their friends and their families. Where is the compassion? Where is the empathy? And
Prabhupada was talking about that in New Vrindaban. He said that people will walk right past somebody that's being hurt
mm,
or somebody that needs something. And that's why Jesus said, as unto the least of these, my brethren, you do it unto me. And he pointed that directly to a lawyer who was trying to get around it. The lawyer was asking Jesus, "How do I get back to heaven?" And he gave the example of the Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan was considered to be the enemy of the Jews
right, he
back.
was a stranger.
Yeah, he was the stranger. He said, "Okay, that's your neighbor. Do unto your neighbor as you would do unto you." And then the lawyer was trying to get around it. He said, "Well, who's my neighbor?" First of all, he asked him what the golden rule is. That's a very instructive uh, thing because you take the immigrant, the worst, the person that's most despised, that's your neighbor, and you treat him as you would treat me. And so, that's why I really respect the Christian theology, especially that parable of the Good Samaritan, because it instructs people to. Uh, that's one of my favorite verses, Matthew. I think it's 45.
No,
That was one of the Beatitudes.
they're great. There are many, many wonderful teachings of Jesus in the Bible that totally align with Krishna consciousness. That's so true.
Absolutely.
But we
Yeah.
have to make sure that people understand the teachings of their own religion.
Right. Yeah. We don't want to convert anybody. They were very much worried that to about the Mayapur project because there's a lot of Muslims living in that area, and maybe you're just like trying to convert everybody. And Prabhupada said, no, it's not a matter of conversion. We're just trying to make the
Hmm.
best. If you're a Christian or if you're a Muslim, we want to make your own path the best. It's not because the only God is one. There's only one God, even though he may go by ever different name. Just like in the Romeo and Juliet, that play, the
Right.
two lovers couldn't get together because they were from different families. And so the Montagues and the Capulets, and they were perplexed because what's in its name? You call a Montague or a Capulet, but it doesn't have anything to do with our relationship. And so I think one of the characters, I don't know whether it was Romeo or Juliet, said a rose by any other name smells as sweet.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter what name you have for God, it's the same personality. And God can understand his name. He's pretty smart. So if you say his name, Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever it is, he'll understand that you're calling his name. And so we just ask everybody to chant his name in whatever language you have, and then purify your heart. And when our hearts are purified and we read Krishna's words and follow the example of the great devotees like Srila Prabhupada, then we can actually come closer to
Hmm.
Krishna and
That's
reach the goal of life.
that's one beside the points that I made at the beginning about what devotees should be doing and how they should be teaching in this day and age, in this under these circumstances. One last point is that devotees, and like you're saying, they need to go out and make alliances, interfaith alliances, that we need to respect others and their beliefs and their religious traditions. And we need to make alliances because there's a mutual understanding. there's a mutual principles. We call them the dharmic, the universal
Yeah,
principles
Dharma.
of Dharma. But the basis of all religion is these universal principles of truth and compassion and cleanliness and self-austerity. And we need to create alliances with other traditions that understand those same basic principles.
And you can understand who is actually religious by understanding how they are behaving in their daily lives. Just like Radha Swami gave this example, like a dog, if the master of the dog is wearing a business suit, or if he's wearing his boxer shorts, or if he's wearing nothing at all, the dog
Uh,
will recognize his master. So, we should be the same. We should understand who is actually a servant of God by their qualities. And if you really are in tune, it takes a pure devotee to know a pure devotee. It takes a devotee to understand what devotional service is and the qualities of a Vaishnava. So we would recognize that in any person if we come across, even if he's from a different faith. So if a dog can do that, why can't we do that? That's why I have this coexist. See the different signs
right.
here.
Beautiful.
The
Coexist.
that's a very popular progressive bumper sticker, but it has the
Ah.
Islamic crescent over here, and then the 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 T is the Christian cross, and the yin yang, and there's different symbols, But
Yes, the essence of all religious traditions are the same.
yeah, and that's what Bhakti Vinod said. He was saying, like, if you look at a mountain from a distance. Um, some people look at it on from the western side. Some people look at it on from the eastern side. The philosophers of like the eastern religions, they will see it in a certain way, but it's the same mountain.
Hmm.
So the absolute truth is true for all men. It doesn't matter what faith you have, but you have to understand and be very generous and kind of tolerant of any kind of so-called difference. But Prabhupada often said that religion is one, and we're not even really interested in converting anybody. We just want to make, if you love God, then that will be the ultimate thing is to come to that conclusion, to that platform. And it doesn't matter what religion you have. It's not a matter of any kind of dogma or
Right.
formula.
But
It's
in
actually
clo
the spirit.
right, no, that's so important. In
So thank you very
closing,
much.
I'd like to finish with the holy names, our special Maha Mantra, this great prayer of deliverance that will kind of like push aside all of the anomalies of this material world where people, Prabhupada promises, people can live in peace and prosperity when they begin to chant the holy names. And so there are many, many different names of God. But we ourselves as Vaishnavas chant the holy name
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So please, if you can, we invite you to take this meditation into your own lives and into your own hearts. And if enough people do that, as in we see in what happened 500 years ago when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu led the first peaceful, massive demonstration against the authorities in his land who wanted to prevent this chanting of the holy name. It pushed aside all of the problems and all of the anomalies that they were confronted with.
Yeah,
So please take to this chanting, and your life will be greatly benefited.
Haribo.
So, Shikshastika Prabhu, thank you for hosting these sessions
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
for
And
allowing me to participate. We'll
I
have
hope
to
that we
continue
can do
next
this
week.
again. Krishna willing, we'll do it every Friday for as long as we have breath.
And take care of yourself and
I will.
Hare
And you
Krishna to
too.
all of our all of our audience. Thank you so
I'll
much
send
for
you I'll
coming.
send you a video link so that you can share that with your friends and family. So
Great,
thank you so much for
great.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Radhe, Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.